Hi, this is DrumWise Meets, and today I'm here with Dov Skipper. Dov has played with the likes of Edwin Starr, Martha Reeves, The Pretty Things, and he has stood in for me for many Purple Zeppelin shows, which I'm very grateful for. So, Dov, welcome.
Hello, Tom.
My first question for you, Dov, is what age did you get into drums and what bands inspired you?
I was about 9, but interestingly, my mum showed me a picture of when I was a lot younger. You know, as mums do, they like to bring up things when you're a kid, and I usually leave at that point. But she showed me a picture of me playing a drum kit at about the age of 5. And I could see the tom, and it was a green sparkle. So I said to my dad, was that the kit that John Bonham gave to you? He said, yeah. So the first kit I ever played was John Bonham's green sparkle kit. So, you know, I'm quite proud of that, and having just found that out as well. But it wasn't, so John Bonham and my dad were pals. My dad played in The Pretty Things, and they were both on the Swan Song label, and they used to, the guys from Zepp, they used to go and watch The Pretty Things and really dug them. So I've got some pictures of me at John Bonham's farmhouse at his home with his family. I think I was about 5. So it's just crazy to think I was around him at that time, but I don't really remember it, unfortunately. It wasn't until I think I was about 9 that I started to get inspired by, I think it was listening to music, you know, especially big band music, and also hearing my dad talk about it a lot. But he'd stopped playing with the band since then and got a real job. So I pulled out his, he'd bought a Pearl drum kit, and it was a Pearl fiberglass kit with no skins on the bottom of the toms. And it was a great kit. So I used to play along to Huey Lewis and the News. They were like my favourite pop band, if you like. Obviously Led Zeppelin and The Pretty Things. I used to listen to Deep Purple, but I didn't play along with it necessarily. I don't, you know, it was kind of a little bit beyond my scope at the time. I just used to enjoy listening to it. And then, you know, my dad had a great record collection, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Steve Miller, Joe Walsh, Average White Band. So yeah, I feel like I had a good grounding in some good rock music from a young age.
Yeah. Cool. There's some pretty good influences right there. Yeah. And you mentioned the green sparkle kit. My next question is, what was your first drum kit? I mean, obviously you talked about that one. Can you remember, you know,
Yeah.
the first set you bought or something?
Yeah, so it was that Pearl kit with the fiberglass Pearl kit, and I had a couple of 22-inch. Well, my dad used to use them as crashes, I think, but 22-inch 602 rides, and a lovely pair of 602 15 hats. I cracked them, unfortunately, but yeah, that was a really lovely kit to play. I was really fortunate. An old Rogers bass drum pedal and hi-hat, and some flush bass stands, and then there was this suitcase in the wardrobe which was just filled with 2B Ludwig drumsticks, some used, some new, some had blood on them and looked like they'd been chewed by a dog. So I kind of had a vision of drumming being a bit like that Whiplash film. But yeah, I went through all those sticks, unfortunately, but the old Ludwig 2B sticks were really nice, and Yeah, so I drove my neighbours absolutely crazy. Um, they had a few years off where my dad used to practice in the house, and then I came along. And I always remember as a child these little notes that used to come through the letterbox. And I figured out what they were when I started playing. They said in or out, and it was one side of the neighbours letting us know that they were in or out, and please go ahead and play. And they came and complained one day. Well, my dad used to get annoyed that they'd put these through the letterbox. He used to rip them up and post them back through their letterbox. And he used to really have my back, and encourage my drumming. So yeah, that was really cool. I had no qualms about drumming to Led Zeppelin every day after coming back from school, and without any restrictions apart from if you played too loud, the needle would jump on the record, so you had to keep it a certain volume.
Oh, see, I've never had to have that problem, like, because I'm of the generation where it was tapes. I never had records. Talking about the Green Sparkle kit, just for my own interest, what do you know what happened to it?
Yeah, so they were pals, and he just kindly, said, here, have a proper kit. My dad was playing another type of drum kit, and he gave him that kit. My dad used to play it on gigs and used to, love it. But when he passed away, when John Bonham passed away, I think it was about 1980, the family, reclaimed his, the estate reclaimed his personal possessions. It was quite a significant instrument, and probably, best with the family. So that, it went back.
Oh, I see. Ah, okay. Ah, cool.
It was a bit of a shame, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, what an iconic kit. Maybe not quite as iconic as the Amber Vista Light, but it's I prefer the
Well,
look.
I, yeah. Well, actually, he'd given him the Amber Vista Light snare drum. I mean, I
Wow.
don't know. He had a few,
Mm.
but so I had that, and I played on that a lot of the time. It was either the Ludwig 402, a sort of nice 70s one that my dad used to use, and or the Vista Light, the orange one. But I could never tune the Vista Light quite like the silver one. So I actually
Mm.
prefer playing the 402, to be
Mm.
honest. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's actually still my snare of choice for the Purple Zeppelin gig. My 402 is I mean mine's a modern one, which Ludwig UK sorted me out with. So little shout out to them, but it's an incredible drum.
with playing with the Purple Zeppelin as well, it's the only drum to use,
Yeah,
and it does
exactly.
help Deep Purple as well.
Mm. Yeah, it works perfectly. I have experimented with others, but I always go back to that one. It's just
Yeah.
works. So we've talked about influences. If you had to pick just one, my loaded question here, um, who's your all-time favorite drummer?
Well, yeah, I know the answer to that. It's Buddy Rich.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I guess it has to be. I named my son after him.
Right.
Uh, I
Mm.
mean, not the rich part, but
Mm.
the Buddy part.
Right.
Um, yeah, so you know, my wife didn't want me to call him Vinny, so it was Buddy. No, I think Buddy Rich is like he was not only a great drummer, he was a great band leader, and what a life and what a time and an era that will just never be again.
Mm.
And you know, I I forget about him for a while. I used to just listen to Buddy a lot, but these days you get other influences. But with YouTube, you kind of new videos crop up and things that I've never seen before, and I just sit there and wonder still and enjoy it. And I think I listened to other drummers, and I knew maybe around the time that I was about 18 about Elvin or Tony. You know, I knew about these drummers, but when I listened to them, I didn't understand them
Mm.
like I can appreciate it now and enjoy it.
Mm.
At the time, I didn't understand it, but Buddy, it was just so accessible for the average person, and also drummers, I think.
Mm.
And there's this video that came up, and he's got his little finger, like it's the first time I've seen his right hand, where his like little fingers kind of like curled up, like
Oh.
this, and I was like, "What? Is that the secret?" So yeah, he's playing this amazing snare drum solo, and this camera comes in from behind, and you can see inside his hand for the first time, and his little finger is curled up. I was like, "What is that?" I've been trying it. It's just it doesn't work for me.
No, that would, yeah,
You know, I've been taught that your little finger's quite a
yeah.
important part of your finger technique, or actually a strong finger, and he was just
But
doing away.
if it worked for Buddy, then wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And what equipment do you currently use? I mean, obviously, right now there's not really many gigs happening. But when you are gigging, what's your gear of choice? And I'm interested in this too, because obviously the amount of gigs you've stood in for me, and I don't know what gear you use. So what do you use?
Okay, well, I'm sitting at it right now, and what with the lockdown and everything, I've done away with the teaching kit. So I had a little hip gig and my old Yamaha kit, and I've put my stage kit up, which is well, it's a rare blue oyster. If I bring it up to the camera a bit. You see it?
Yeah.
And it's very rare in the blue, but I first bought it as a 3-piece kit, and I've found a 13 and a 14. And I had a 20-inch Gretsch, which was black, from a practice kit my dad once bought, and I dug it out and I reskinned it with not reskinned it. I put a new wrap on it.
Yeah.
It's very similar blue wrap. So I've got kind of like a small jazz kit I can make up, or 22, 13, 16, or all of them. And at the moment I've got all of them set up, which is such a joy, because I think I might be able to change my camera angle so you can take a look at it. I've got, I don't normally have, this many cymbals. And I've also got these Pete Engelhardt cowbells. I've been having a lot of fun with cowbells recently. This is a Mambo, an 8-inch Mambo cowbell, and these are a Pete Engelhardt, I think they're called a Shield. And then there's this sort of like a metal drum. So it's just great fun playing about with rhythms on all these sort of different instruments, and I'm just having a good time being able to play the same thing rather than it always changing. There's a little a Peter Erskine 8-inch, or no, 10-inch snare drum here, but I usually use it without the snare. And you've got that kind of timbali sound. And the cymbals are the kind of dark Istanbuls.
Nice. Oh, okay. I see you've got a snare weight on your snare.
Yeah, and in fact, I was going to get one for every drum, and I ended up making them rather than spending, whatever it costs per drum. So yeah, that's cool. Oh, I'm a snare drum. This is my pride and joy. It's
yeah. I see what that is straight away.
I seem to prefer wood snare drums.
Yeah, I do as well, to be honest, most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, obviously getting out the 402 sometimes is magic.
Yeah.
I've got a few snares here, and I was going to show you. It was my birthday the other day, and I got
Birthday.
bottle of vodka. It's a beluga, and it lights up.
Wow.
So you know you can set it at that tempo.
Wow. A light up bottle of vodka. I've never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, I thought after our chat, I mean it's quite late. I thought I'd have a little snifter, a little
Why
finger.
not?
Yeah.
What are your snares behind you, by the way? What have you got there?
So that's a joyful noise. It came from a swamp,
Oh.
like it's like 1,000 years old or something. That's a 1947 Gretsch round badge.
Hmm.
That's a lovely drum. I played that for about 4 years. I love it. A Noonan, sort of copy of a Black Beauty, and a Yamaha.
Ah.
And I got another the Vinny Yamaha snare there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yamaha used to make some great snare drums. You know, they're quite interesting designs, and yeah, I got that and an Akira Jimbo one as well, which is
Oh,
it's
cool.
30x7. It's quite an interesting sound.
Have you seen Graham Russell's collection of drums?
Not personally, no, but I've heard he's got quite a
So
collection.
he's been during the lockdown. He's been putting posts up on Facebook of his collection. I think it's mainly Yamaha, and I think his claim is that he's got a 9,000 that he has one drum for every size they ever made, and his kit is a monster. And then his snare drum collection is I've just never seen anything like it. It's incredible.
Really, wow.
It's absolutely incredible. While we're geeking out, actually, I interviewed David Frangioni the other day, who is the owner of Modern Drummer magazine, and he's just done a new book. He's made a new book called Crash, and it's about his drum kit collection. And he has a very extensive collection of kits, like Neil Peart's kits. He's got Carl Palmer's kit. I mean, the list is quite extensive. I can't remember exactly all the kits, but he's now opening the doors to the public to be able to go and play on these actual kits. Which
That's a great idea. You know, they need playing, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Play so many kits.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a great idea. If I was in the US, I would get a ticket and go.
Or you know, do you think Graham Russell might do the same thing with his snare drums?
He might do. Yeah. If you're watching, Graham, you should. There you go. You should.
I love the sound of these kits, and I think with the 13 and 16 I can get a nice sort of John Bonham sound. It's not quite you know, the size, but you know, the pitch you can get around the same, and with the 22-inch bass drum, they've got a nice sort of an old bit of a vintage vibe about them.
But it's interesting you should talk about sizes. I mean, you know, we've got this common thing between us of Purple Zeppelin and having to play Ian Paice and John Bonham. My Vista light that I use, one, it's not amber, and I know some people come up to me and say, why is it not amber? And two, the sizes are not correct. But my answer to both of those things is, well, it's not amber because Ian Paice didn't use an amber kit. As far as I know, I've never seen him use an amber Vista light. So that kit has to look right for both bands, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. Hence why it's clear. And then in the second half of the show, I can light it up and make it amber.
Okay. You can change the colour with the light scheme.
I've got a drum light inside it, so it can then become a light up amber Vista light. And the second thing is the sizes. Why are they not? Why do you not use a big bass drum like John Bonham? Well, because I'm not John Bonham, and for me, those sizes work. But the real reason is have you ever tried to get a 26-inch bass drum in a normal car? I mean, like, you know, so for a long time with that band, I just wouldn't have been able to get it in my car. I've now got a van; it wouldn't be a problem. But obviously, I'm not going to go out and buy a new kit just for a bigger bass drum.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a monster, isn't it? And when you think about doing normal gigs with a function band or something, can you imagine turning up with that
yeah,
and a 14-inch top tom, which is normally a floor tom.
yeah,
It's monstrous. But you used to tune that quite high,
mm.
but it had the sort of the tone and depth to it, which only you could get. I think they got bigger, didn't they? The drums as he was.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't use a Vista. The Vista Light's a great kit, but I wouldn't use it if it wasn't the Purple Zeppelin show. I wouldn't rock up to another gig with another band with a Vista Light. It just doesn't seem right. I would take one of my other wooden kits, time to get out one of my vintage kits. I wouldn't use the old.
Yeah, no, I mean it must look great, and I've seen a video of you doing it. It does. It looks great with everything lit up, and there has to be an element of enjoyment and visual effect from that. I mean, the only homage I play is like I've got a CS dot on my bass drum, which is kind of reminiscent of those the dots on the Ludwig drums.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get back to these questions because we could talk all day about this stuff. What's been the highlight of your career so far?
Okay, it's quite a tough question. That can I say a few?
Absolutely, of course.
I mean, I find it so enjoyable just sitting down at the kit, and every time I play it, I just enjoy playing or practicing or playing with other people on stage. But I guess that the highlight of my career was to start with was playing with Edwin Starr, and I played with him for about 10 years. And during that time, we played at some pretty large festivals. And when you look out over a sea of people and they're dancing to your beat and hearing them sing along and cheer and clap, and towards the end of the gig that kind of erupts, and there's no feeling like it to kind of be part of that experience. It's such a good feeling, and the buzz you get from it is so uplifting. And then on the flip side, playing in a smaller venue where people are right there looking at you is a little bit intimidating, but at the same time it's very exciting, and but it's a totally different experience. And I mean, I'd just like to say that playing with Edwin, he was such a good front person, and along with my drumming inspirations, he has to be up there with them. Although he wasn't a drummer, he had this energy about him that when he came on stage, you'd feel that energy and you'd feed off it. His whole body would move with the beat, and you'd focus on him and be led by him. And he would direct the band like he was, creating the music at the time, even though the songs were kind of pre-thought out. We used to mix stuff up a lot, so it was never the same gig twice. But I really learned how to play simply because I was into Dave Weckl and these great drummers at the time, and I was trying to do that stuff. And it's just a funny story. The first gig I did with Edwin, everyone's going, okay, so if he goes like that, that means end the song, or if he does this, it means go into that song. And during the gig, my first gig with him, I think I've been practicing all these songs. I think I'm doing all right. And he turns around and he points at me, and I didn't know what that meant. No one said what that meant when he points at you. So naturally, I went into Dave Weckl mode. I thought, drum solo spot here. He must like me that much that he's given me a drum solo. So off I go. He goes, no, foot. I go, oh, okay, sorry. So it just meant, you know, play your foot, fall to the floor, and here sing while you're doing that. So yeah, that was my first gig, and some of my most nerve-wracking time was just playing the bass drum on the 2 and 4 for about 5 minutes. You know, as a drummer, without any kind of reference point apart from playing just 2 and 4 on the bass drum, you can start to sort of, you know, trip out to it a bit. So yeah, that was kind of the more simpler things were actually the harder things. But you know, he you know, it took a while to build trust. So, you know, towards the end, you know, I was doing more sort of drum beats and more complicated stuff. But to start with, you know, he wanted it really straight, really loud. I've never, you know, no one's ever told me to play louder or with more intensity before. And then that led on to a problem with the next band I joined after Edwin. It was a theatre band, and we were playing an ABBA song, and you know, I'm playing, and the musical director turned around and gave me a look, and it was a look that before with Edwin meant you're not playing hard enough. So instantly, you know, we're playing ABBA, and I thought, oh, I've got to play louder. So I started bashing it, and this guy, I was looking at him, and he was fuming. So afterwards, I said, look, was there something that I was doing wrong? He said, yeah, you were too loud. And then obviously you got louder when I looked at you, you know. So I'd been kind of programmed one way, and then just, you know, didn't have a clue when it came to, you know, how people usually do things.
Imagine if he'd turned round to you and pointed, and you'd gone, cool! And then he went, no, drum solo!
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I used to really get into the grooves with Edwin, and I just like, so you'd kind of be playing, and then you'd break it down, and the kind of patterns that you play, it'd be that kind of thing, and you'd really home into that as a groove, and then you might kind of mix it up a little bit and add a little off, you know, like a. And then you'd add the snare in, and then it would be this big, you know, add the snare on the 2 or the 4, but just the 2 or 4, and then you'd build it up, and then your build up breaks would just be dun 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 ticka ticka ticka, you know, really simple stuff, but it kind of made me realise what people want and what they expect in a way when you're playing, you know, to a bigger or wider audience. So,
Cool. Did you, with that gig, did you have to do the Motown feel very much?
yeah. Yeah. Well, with the we did a tour called Dancing in the Streets, and that was the theme tune, the start of that song. And when I auditioned for it, I had to audition for it, and the musical director said, "Dancing in the Streets, 1, 2," and I was like, "What?" And then it was supposed to be 1, 2, doom, boom, but obviously I missed it. I was so like, you know, what? Okay, what?
Oh, brilliant.
I mean, Edwin, I miss him actually. He died way too early, and I kind of it took a bit out of me that because it's such a big part of my life. But then the other highlight was that I got to play with my dad on stage a couple of times, and the first time was at Abbey Road Studios.
Okay.
His band Pretty Things did a reissue of S of Sorrow, and there were quite a lot of drum overdubs on there, and so it required another drummer to play at the same time,
Right.
and that was just amazing to play not only with him but with the Pretty Things.
Mm.
So I was very lucky to get the chance to do that.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I think it was one of the first streamed events on the internet. So it was quite a while
Oh,
ago.
right.
Um,
Oh, okay.
and it came out as a DVD.
Hmm.
And I think these days my highlight's playing with Purple Zeppelin. That's quite a significant gig
Hmm.
in terms of the music, the playing, and to finish it all, a drum solo, which where you can kind of basically play what you want.
What's been the worst thing that's gone wrong on stage for you that you've had to recover from?
Yeah, that one's quite easy actually. I was yeah, I was playing. Actually, I can remember the song. It was "I Wish It Could Rain," and I was playing with Mary Wilson on a theatre gig. And this song, it starts off nice and quiet. It's like little tinkly bells, and then by the end of it, her thing was like really give it some welly. So by the end of it, you're playing away, and on the burnout, and then on the very last beat, I've played the last beat and hit the bass drum as hard as I could, and the footplate snapped in half. And so I've looked down and I've thought, hang on a minute, it's snapped in half. What do I do? And I mean, the look of shock on my face must have said it all, because we're about halfway through the show. So I whipped it off and gave it to the tech, and I didn't know what they were going to do with it. But during this, somebody in the audience had seen what's going on and was a drummer, obviously. And he came up and he took a stick, and for the next couple of songs, he played the bass drum with a stick. And he did a really good job, actually.
Wow.
And then the roadie came back, put the pedal back. What he'd done is he put a plate underneath the pedal, got a bit of metal, and gaffer taped it up. Gaffer tape, of course. And it just about got me through. But as I was playing it, the foot plate was hitting the wing nut that
Oh, okay. Yeah.
holds the bass on the thing, so it kept clicking. It wasn't quite right. But yeah, it got me through the gig.
Mm.
But quite a frightening experience.
That's a pretty good one. Apart from drinking vodka, what are your hobbies away from drumming?
Well, yeah, I've got the kids, and we go cycling. We've been doing a lot of that recently with the lockdown. I like cooking. I like good food, seafood, crab, lobster. But I guess my main hobby is FPV. Looking like a bit of a geek, but is putting the goggles on and flying a drone.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll send you a clip that you can put on right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can go up, you can do somersaults, go upside down, and the feeling of freedom from it is immense.
Hang on. So, is it a real drone or is this like a simulator thing?
No, it's a real drone, yeah, yeah.
But you put like a uh, Oculus Rift kind of thing
Yeah,
on, I guess. Oh, and
yeah,
then you
exactly.
can see where it's going.
So you can see where it goes. So on the front of it is a little FPV camera, I think they're called. So they send the video back to your goggles pretty quick, because and then you put a little GoPro on top to actually do a nice video.
Right.
Um, yeah, you can go incredibly fast, and it's been nice recently because there's been no planes. Not that I go up to that height, but yeah, it's been nice and quiet recently, and
That's really interesting and different. Wow.
Ah, thanks. But I was more into it maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but nowadays, anytime I get, I'm just practicing really.
Mm.
I know it's not supposed to be about anything to do with drums, but
No, that's cool. Well, I think I've said this to so many people that we're really lucky because our hobby, when we were younger, it was our hobby. No matter how we think of it, when we first started, drums were a hobby, and
yeah,
that hobby becomes our job and our livelihood. And I still think it can still be our hobby. Drums are still my hobby, so
yeah,
it's my job and my hobby. So
yeah.
there's no nothing wrong with saying drums as well. So.
Oh, cool. Okay, thanks.
um, what sort of person do you think you need to be to successfully work in the music industry? So whether it's a touring drummer or a recording drummer, what are your views on that?
Um, well, I guess I guess know when to take a little bit of shit from the band leader, um, but also know when to stand up for yourself and make sure that you're treated right financially and other things. Um, don't be afraid to turn things down if the numbers don't add up. I think musicians are taken advantage of a lot, considering the amount of time and effort that's put into it, and also the equipment that's required. Um, so yeah, I think it's and obviously the usual stuff like being always friendly, always happy, even if you've had a 3-hour drive to a gig. Try not to get everyone down. Always be the one that's I mean I love playing with bands, and usually there's a really good vibe there.
Mm,
So there's not a problem of just being yourself and being a nice person.
mm.
So it should just come naturally, and also being good at networking, telling jokes, and just being a sort of friendly, fun guy, really.
Mm. And if you could give just one bit of advice to up and coming drummers, what would that be? Because obviously I know that you teach as well. So, whether that be from a teacher's point of view or a pro drummer's point of view, what would your one bit of advice be?
I think because only a few of us. We were saying earlier before we got into the interview that there's only a very small percentage of drummers that can actually play every night and earn a living from it, and be able to buy a house and have nice things. So I think you have to be open and look at other things during your life and take every opportunity you can get. I mean, from a musical point of view, I'd say learn to play another instrument, particularly the piano or guitar, something chordal, so you can understand songs better, can help your drumming, and also one day you might want to write a song, and that's probably where the money is. I don't do that myself, but I kind of wish I did,
Mm.
so that you could do commercials and have some library music on the go. So at times like this, you can be busy and working. Learn about the music business. Learn about business in general. It's just like any other business, being a drummer and a freelancer. You're kind of an entrepreneur. You have to learn how to think on your feet, and yeah. So don't just look at it as drumming. And if you're young and you want to have it as a career, do loads of things. Whatever opportunities you get offered to you, just do as much as you can. Do it for free at that point if you want, because while living with mum and dad, you've got that opportunity to get them to give you lifts and live under their roof without having to pay your mortgage. So do as much as you can, and then keep all those contacts in your book and keep in touch with people. Don't let years go by before you sort of get back in touch with people. There's loads of people from what I've done that I wish I just kept a little bit more you know, in touch with, and just phoned up now and again, just said, hi, how you doing?
Mm.
You know, not to the point where you're annoying band leaders and stuff, but just kind of, you know, keep in touch.
When you first get a gig with a new artist, a new band, how do you learn the songs? Do you learn them by ear? Do you chart them out? And actually, quite relevant here, I think. Maybe you could talk about how you learnt the Purple Zeppelin set as well.
Okay, sure, yeah. And thanks for giving me that bit of direction, because there's lots of different ways you can learn music, and it depends on, you know, the gig, obviously, and it depends also on the band leader, and you know how strict they are about you playing the music, whether it's original or, you know, covers. With the Zepp gig, the main concern was the overall arrangement of the show. So, you know, and then homing in on the starts, the ends, and the segues. The songs obviously are important, and the arrangements of those, you know, you have to just learn. So I first of all look for charts online, and I bought a few just to save me having to transcribe stuff myself, you know. Sometimes it can be quicker. I wouldn't recommend that for learning the drums. It's always good to practice transcribing, but at times, you know, just buy a chart for £2 or £3. So a few of the charts that I read still, because I like it to sound exactly like the original, are things like Stairway to Heaven or Kashmir, like Black Knight, you know, a few album songs that are played from start to finish exactly like the record. Then, you know, I like to try and get, you know, there's some little ghost notes in Stairway to Heaven, and they've just got to be there. So, you know, I like to just kind of stick to the record on some of the songs, but the other ones where I think they're kind of inspired by live performances, there's a bit more free reign there, and so, you know, I kind of do my own thing. But the other consideration is the tracks as well, and it's the first time I've had the Roland pad thing, and that's quite a big consideration, because, you know, you've got the click, and then sometimes it's triggered during a song, so you've got to kind of be at the same tempo by the time you get to that point, like in Stairway to Heaven, or you know, there's quite a few of them that do that. But yeah, it's quite incredible how it can happen, and it does just work out. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. But to start with, I would book a rehearsal room for 4 hours or a day, and I'd go and do the gig physically, because it's one thing just learning the songs. It's another thing actually playing at performance level. And those songs at performance level does require quite a lot of effort. And, you know, when you're
Tell me about it.
used to doing, you know, function gigs or a few pub gigs, it's not the same thing at all. And then to top it all off, you know, once you've done 2 hours, or at least that, doing the Moby Dick drum solo, it's like,
Yeah. Whose idea was it to put that at the end, hey? What a silly idea. It's not as if we've worked hard enough anyway. You know, the other
no.
guys just do this, or la la la. Like drums, like, you know, obviously not taking anything away from their what they do, but there's no denying that drums are obviously the most physical instrument. Like, it's quite a physical thing to do. And
Yeah.
then to do 2 hours of that, and then have to do quite a demanding solo to try and sound like John Bonham.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to get that intensity during the gig, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking, oh, I've got to hold a bit back. I've got to hold a bit back, you know, for the drum solo. But actually, when I get to the drum solo, it's like I can kind of relax a bit, because you can build it how you want to. And sometimes if I'm a bit tired, I'll just sort of start off quiet and take it somewhere from there. But when you hear the drums in a theatre, and you've got big sub amps and everything's mic'd up nicely, it's really inspiring to hear that back,
Mm.
you know, from the auditorium, and also, you know, people are naturally clapping and stuff, and it's a really, you know, thrilling thing to do. So we're gonna have a drum off or what?
We can try. I don't know. Well, the timing, we won't be in time with each other, but I don't know how that'll work.